Hey, folks. Well, welcome to the show. And I heard a few minutes ago, verdict at 1:30 p.m. local time. And just as I pressed start, update, it's going to be read 2 p.m. Whew. I'm a bit nervous, folks. I must say. But if this is going to be read at 2 p.m., which is in 40 minutes, let's go and watch what happened earlier today. Let's watch what happened earlier today, which is the closing arguments. Let's see here. Hold on while I. Dun, 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 dun. While I. No, that's. That works so everybody can see. All right, recap time. Recap time of what happened earlier today. Now, I got to listen to bits and pieces because today I had a long day at work. I had an annual, what we call an annual meeting, where we go through. This is what happened last year. This is what we're hoping for the next year, and stuff like that, and elections and stuff, local stuff, union stuff. So I could only listen in on my few breaks today. So let's go through it, and I will give you my opinion on the closing arguments.
Gradle, with me is Ms. Healy, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Leonard. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks. You can have a seat. All right, so you folks ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
All right. I don't say this for the attorneys who know this, but because the government prosecution has the burden, they go last. The defense goes first in their closing. And Ms. Gradle, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
I'm more comfortable with this, I realized.
May it please the court. Counsel, ladies and gentlemen, Your Honor, June 30th, 2025 was the worst day in Kelsey Fitzsimmons' life. Her whole world imploded. Her fiance betrayed her. Her baby was being taken away. She was going to lose her house, her job. There was an incredible confluence of tragedy that was visited upon her that day. That day was about her, and she decided in the midst of what you saw testified to here, she decided to end her life. Patrick Noonan, when he came back up those stairs, Your Honor, walked into a suicide in progress. That gun was nowhere near him. That gun was already pointed at Miss Fitzimmons' temple by Miss Fitzimmons. She was a couple steps into the room. Officer Noonan, a gung-ho cop, highly trained, a SWAT guy, he'd already been ginned up all afternoon by the insane, ludicrous statements of Justin Elaine. He had that in his head. He walked in, and like all of us are susceptible to, he made a mistake. He shot too quick. He reacted too quickly. And instantly, he realized that he had to adjust the narrative. And that was easy, to just add 6 words to the equation, Your Honor. He said, words to the effect, she pointed the gun at me. 6 words. What did those words do at that time period? Those words made him the victim. Those words made him the hero. And those words, most important, made him untouchable. Those words were a defense for his future, his life, his reputation, and they were conveyed to a very willing audience. His colleagues, his brothers, his family, the investigators on the case. So that's really what happened here, Your Honor, and it is a tragedy, and it is something that should not result in any further harm to Ms. Fitzsimmons. This should be over. This should be an acquittal, Your Honor. I want to talk to you about a few of the elements that I know you're going to be concerned about. So, first thing I want to talk about, Judge, is the lack of motive and the lack of intent. Because when it gets down to brass tacks, I know that you're going to look at the law, you're going to look at the credibility determinations, and you're going to make your judgment. And here, this case fails. The Commonwealth ship founders on the rocks of lack of motive and lack of intent. Let's talk about motive. Everything in life is motive. And it's ironic that, us lawyers always say, oh, you don't need to prove motive. But you really kind of did. It's might not be an element of the crime, but motive is everything in this business, Your Honor. Let's look for motive or lack of motive. Fitzsimmons and Noonan are colleagues. They have already bonded over shared tragedies, shared experiences. They were okay with each other. They were friends. Kelsey thought well of him, and she thought he thought well of her. She knows he has a family. She knows who his family is. She's not going to harm this guy. She knows, Your Honor, that he didn't do this to her. She knows that Justin Elaine did this to her. And she's, probably most important, she's been in those shoes before, serving restraining orders. She knows she's just a messenger. She knows he's just a messenger. This was the worst moment of her life, and she wanted to end her life. And how did she want to do it? She wanted to do it alone. She didn't want to involve these officers because she knew this was a selfish act. She came in here, and ironically, the most credible evidence that came into this case, Your Honor, was from the one person that didn't have to testify. And she came in here and she chose to testify. And she waived her rights and she testified. And she showed, Your Honor, that she's a moral person. She's a caring person. You'll sit down and you'll deliberate, and you'll be drawing the inevitable conclusion that Kelsey Fitzsimmons is a moral person. You have to contrast that with the callous treatment of this case from the other side. Hey, we're going to go serve an order on Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Her ex-fiancé got an order on her, on Kelsey. Let's go serve an order. The answer sounds good. Let's go. Talks to his neighbor. Oh yeah, I'm the shooter. I'm the shooter. She's a whack job. So you have to take these credibility determinations into account. And I know you're a gentleman, but you have to get down to brass tacks on who's who here. What else shows you that she's a moral person? She doesn't want to involve these guys. She's trying to get rid of it. She says, oh, the guns are over here, so she can go where they really are. She keeps trying to give Houston and Noonan baby things to bring downstairs. She's trying to get rid of them. She's trying to get them away from her. She wants to do this on her own. She doesn't want to have some sort of situation where she gets shot by one of her colleagues and friends. It's understandable because she's a moral person. She waits for her chance. She gets to her room. There's a distraction downstairs. She doesn't know what's going on because she's focused on the job she's trying to do here. The tragic, awful thing that she's trying to do to herself. That's how you know she's telling the truth, Your Honor. You saw in the room, and I'll show it to you in a minute, the chest that she got the gun from. It's a chest on the floor. It has one of those pretty substantial lids that you have to flip up to get the gun, locate the gun, pick the gun out of the 4 guns, and stand up. If Noonan was standing right there in the door frame, that would have never happened. All those events, that little series of events, he would have been able to stop it. He would have stopped it. It tells you that he's down the steps. He was interested in the distraction downstairs. He saw Kelsey folding some baby clothes, getting baby things ready. His attention, it's human nature. His attention was drawn to go back down the stairs. He walked down the stairs 2 or 3 steps, 4 steps, whatever. And Kelsey told you, straight up, that was my chance. And she took it. And she went in the chest, zip 51, Your Honor, I'll show you right now. She went in that chest, flipped up that lid, got the gun, stood up. She told you again, she's a moral person. She tried to keep the gun concealed. She made the motion like this, Your Honor, where she put the gun like this and she kind of walked over here. But she didn't want the police to see her with a gun. She held the gun to her stomach area. She walked to a clear area and she put the gun to her head. And that's what I mean when I say Officer Noonan came back up the stairs, and what did he walk into? He didn't walk into some Rambo woman trying to shoot him in the face. He walked into Kelsey, who you now know a little bit from her testimony. He walked into Kelsey's room, and Kelsey had a gun to her head, and he walked into a suicide in progress room. And the man that had just been holding a baby, that she chose to hold a baby, that she chose to feed her baby, walked into her suicide in progress. The gun was nowhere near Noonan. There was no threat to Noonan. And the law says that an officer may not use deadly force on someone who is exhibiting danger only to themselves. And that's offered to Your Honor twofold, in the sense that it shows that this was not a reasonable use of force, and it shows you that his knowledge of that statute, as he said on the stand, gives him a motive to lie. He knows that this is not a good shooting. He knows this is not a clean shooting, and that gives him a motive here, Your Honor. And like all of us, we all make mistakes. He overreacted and he shot. He had the look on his face, panic, fluster, he shot. He had made a mistake by leaving her there, walked down the steps, a few steps, and that gave her the chance. And when he did this, he knew immediately, Your Honor, that he had to adjust the matter. Filtered through the legal lens, Your Honor, that tells us that Kelsey had no intent. She had no intent to harm him. There's no assault here because she didn't have the intent to do so. As the fact finder, you can consider everything you said about motive, that she lacked any motive to harm this gentleman. In fact, it was the opposite. She thought well of him. She knew Justin did this to her. She had just trusted him with her baby, and she had tried several times to get these officers away from the situation. No intent to harm him, no motive driving her mindset to do so. Reasonable doubt, burden of proof, Your Honor. Where the evidence supports a reasonable and more plausible alternative, and that's shown here by Kelsey's testimony, it cannot be said that Commonwealth has proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. There is reasonable doubt. When there are two plausible versions of what happened, that itself is reasonable doubt. The versions themselves, Your Honor, show reasonable doubt. Kelsey's version rings true. Noonan's version is all over the place. Noonan's version is contradicted by the strong consensus of everybody else in the house. Noonan portrays a couple different stories, but if you want to pick one where it's this drawn out potential gun battle, where she's backpedaling, sidestepping, tapping, racking, there's commands going on, that takes time. It takes time for me even to say it. Never mind do it. And that's belied by everything everybody else in the house says. Everyone else says, Kelsey no, 2 shots in quick succession, bam, bam. That does not fit with what Newman said happened. So, on that alone, Your Honor, as a fact finder, I suggest that your duty is accomplished quickly, because there are two extremely divergent versions of this event. And Newman's version has changed itself. Newman's version is inconsistent with who you now know Kelsey is as a person. It's self-serving. And like I said, it makes him untouchable. And when you judge it against everyone in the house, he's the only one with the Rambo story. Everyone else has what Kelsey says. He walks into a suicide in progress, he sees it, he reacts, Kelsey no, bam, bam. Brain freeze, mistake. Has to cover it up immediately. What else do we have? You know, when you're a fact finder, you want to look for corroboration. What's the corroboration on either side of this thing? Or lack of corroboration, which is what really it is here. You know, the big one, the big elephant in the room is that this department has no body cameras. We wouldn't even be here if they had body cameras. There's no evidence other than people's words. He said versus she said. That's oftentimes, almost all the time, not a good place to start for the Commonwealth. How many of these guys didn't do reports? What's up with that? Why didn't Trooper Strong put the body camera video on the witness he's interviewing? There's no science. The testimony of everyone else in the house shatters his narrative. Kelsey Fitzsimmons has been blessed. She should be dead 2 times over. By her own hand and by the hand of Officer Noonan, who shot her. She's blessed. She's here today, and she has a new lease on life. Maybe that's why the investigation is what it is. And maybe that's why the story is so sloppy, because nobody expected her to be here today. tell her truth. But she is your honor. And as a fact finder, I want to respectfully ask you to consider the evidence, consider the lack of motive, the lack of intent, the inconsistencies, the credibility contest is firmly in her camp. She came in here and she told you what happened. Unvarnished truth. And I ask you to find her not guilty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Riddick.
So this was the defense closing, and I'm not a fan of it. It's vague. When it says inconsistent with Noonan's story is inconsistent with evidence. What evidence? Every piece of evidence, line them up and say it's inconsistent with this officer's rendition. And then quote what that officer said. It's inconsistent with physics. That you brought that up in an opening statement. Return to it. Return to it. It's inconsistent with the visuals. He did bring that up, but more in passing. I mean, they did hand the judge the chalk, the outliner of the top floor in that house. Show it. Not that picture. That picture is good. Then add the diagram over the top floor and point out that according to Noonan's story, she's 3 feet away. That is physically impossible if he is where he claims he is, in the door frame. Maybe it's... He is up against a judge as the fact finder. Would this have worked with a jury? I would assume it may have worked better with a jury. I don't think it's that effective when the judge is the jury. Tell a story from start to finish. And he only mentioned reasonable doubt 3 or 4 times. Your Honor, let's start with this. Inconsistent with Noonan's testimony, is inconsistent with this. That is reasonable doubt. Next item, it's inconsistent with this. Tell why. Reasonable doubt. Every witness the state put on there. Talk about it, point it out. Talk about it, point it out. Reasonable doubt. The gun, what was found, were in the hands of and in the reach of these 3 officers for a substantial amount of time before the state troopers arrived. There is plenty of time for tampering to help Noonan's story. One officer placed it, according to himself, to be safe. What do you do when you safe a gun? You remove the mag, you cock it, do the thing. Next officer places it, has to make sure it's safe. Is the magazine out? Da-da-da. And then it ends up back in the chest. How did it get there? Or in the box? How did it get there? And why is the magazine still in there? It is still in there because somebody put it back. every step of the way and add reasonable doubt to every section of your story. This was, in my opinion, too vague and too weak. Let's just see here. I'm just going to see so we are not. Yeah, this is. They're still not back. Let's now listen to the state's closing argument. I'm going to start a poll on YouTube.
I mean,
Yes,
every piece of credible evidence in this case proves one thing, that she's guilty. All the testimony, the scientific evidence, the physical evidence, the demonstrative evidence, everything points to one conclusion: she is guilty.
Oh yeah, folks, there will come times where he will use the gun that is in front of him as a prop. I saw on X that one channel got a community note and can't stream for 24 hours because of that. So I will have to adjust to it.
Even her own testimony proves she's guilty.
I see, Tucker. You just can't create reasonable doubt because you want it to be. Okay. According to Noonan, he was in the door frame. The chest is less than a foot from the door frame. If he was there all the time while she was diving for it, how come she ended up 3 feet away from him with the gun pointed to his head and him not reacting at all? This highly trained officer. That is in evidence, Mr. Tucker. Explain it to me. How that is not reasonable doubt.
Because it's impossible to have happened the way she said it. It is scientifically, mechanically impossible for it to happen the way she said it. Her story is that she grabbed a gun, put it to her head, pulled the trigger, and it clicked. The chamber was empty. That's what her story is. And that's what Officer Noonan's story is, too. She pulled the trigger, clicked, nothing came up. There wasn't a round in the chamber. She even said she told everybody how stupid I am. I tried to kill myself with an empty gun. But what do we know about the gun? What do we know about her gun? Because after she went to the floor, Lieutenant David picked it up, put it on the bed. Officer Noonan picked it up and put it on the table. And then Officer Ford came in the room. And what happened then? Officer Noonan said, secure that gun, make it safe. And so what did he do? He took the gun, he found that black box safe. He made sure that was empty, he turned it over. He pulled out the magazine that you can see right here. He opened the chamber, and there was a round in the chamber.
That is his testimony. Folks, at that moment, that gun is evidence. 2 officers handled it before him. Two. Why was the mag still in the gun? Why wasn't it secured before? This is not according to evidence. And here is where I would have objected. Once the prosecutor said scientific, I would have and started talking about this. Objection. The state has not produced an expert witness who swore an oath and testified in a reasonable, blah, 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 scientific. None. Not one did so. Prosecutor cannot use the word scientifically in this. For me, it's an easy objection. Very, very easy objection. Okay, we are closing in on. We are just checking in on live. Let's just. I don't want to risk missing the reading of the verdict. It's 7 minutes. Now, the prosecution went on, even racking the gun, making statements, racking the gun, making statements. It was a very, very strong closing argument from the state. It was maybe not according to evidence all the time, but it was confident, it was strong, and it pointed out the few. He was very, very good at pointing out the inconsistencies in the defense case, which is clever because he wants to draw attention to the defense inconsistencies, not his own. And that's also why I believe that, although I respect Mr. Bradel, he is an excellent attorney, he didn't point out, this is the weakness of the state's case, boom, boom, boom. This is inconsistent, reasonable doubt. This is inconsistent, reasonable doubt. These are complete contrary to each other and cannot both be true at the same time. Listen to that officer, listen to that officer. They can't be correct. They made up completely different stories about what she said. While they were both within earshot of her, they can't both be true. So I am disappointed in the defense closing argument. That doesn't change the facts of the case. Closing arguments is not evidence. I do believe that this judge, and we will go through it after the reading of the verdict, we will go through the closing argument and Mr. Bradel's objection, which he used as a rebuttal closing. What the judge said there was the state must, what he as a fact finder has to conclude, the judge, is, did Kelsey brandish the gun against Mr. Noonan for what did it say it was? For a recognizable time. or something of the sort. First of all, I don't think that is the standard, which is worrying. Because what he, as a fact finder, he has to, every aspect of the crime alleged has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. For me, it's a he said, she said, and a few inconsistencies in the defense case can be explained by Officer Noonan. He didn't point out that, despite what the Braille didn't point out, they claim this highly trained officer would not have done this mistake. And yet, 3 officers entered that house knowing it was guns in the house, and not one of them secured a single gun. Even after the child left the house, not one. They allowed her, after the child left, to pack things. Why? That is against standard. They have to secure the guns. Point it out, because it's not according to the state's theory. The state's theory is there were no mistakes made. Point out how many mistakes were made. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Did Tucker do any reply? Folks, I said this before and I will say it again. If you're here to troll, you have to be funny or correct. Let's see. And I see there's another one here with pure speculation. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see, Tucker. She saw police. She should have complied with the police order. That's simple. She did. She handed the baby over. Now, again, what are your claims that the officers did everything correct in this when none of them secured a single weapon? Again, I'll welcome any troll. You have to be correct or you have to be funny. If you're neither, fuck off. This is my living room. These are my friends. These are my viewers. If you want to be here, troll away. But be correct or be funny. Now, what do I believe the verdict will be? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It is now 2 p.m. local time, and this is when it was scheduled to be read out. Let's see here. If it has been 3 minutes ago, prosecutors has entered the courtroom. There are 5 court officer stations all around the room. So they are more or less on schedule. Now, I hope it's an acquittal. For me, listening to the case, I hope it's an acquittal, because the fact alone that Noonan claims he stood at the door frame while she was doing all of that, and he, as a highly trained SWAT guy, never reacted until what he claims the gun was in his face. No, I do not buy it. In my opinion, even if he took a few steps down, came up, he saw he might not have even seen that she had a gun to her head. He just saw a gun. And folks, people's minds can play tricks on you. He saw a gun, tunnel vision. Kelsey no, bang, bang. He might have believed it was pointed at him. But in my opinion, it's not logical according to his story. Simple, because had he been in that door frame, the moment she dived down towards that chest, opening it, and there were guns, he would have been all over her. She is, what is she? 5'4", 5'5", 120 pounds. A kick, and she would have flown across the room. It's he, as the trained guy he is, SWAT team for over a decade. There's no way he would not have reacted if she had done what he claims she did. Tucker pulling out the firearm while cops are in the room is also not logical alone. Okay, as Mike, shit gun. Now here is, while cops, plural, nobody in this trial said there were two cops, two or more cops in the room. So already here, I told you, correct or funny, you're a shit cunt, an absolute shit cunt, and you're out. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon. We're on record on the Kelsey Fitzsimmons matter, docket 2025, 77 CR 311. All counsel and the defendant are present.
Thank you. So, before I begin, I'd like to speak to our audience members. I understand that this case has generated a lot of passion and emotion. But you must remember that this is a courtroom and not a sports arena. When I announce my verdict, you must not act out emotionally or visibly or audibly react. So you should leave the courtroom if you believe that you will be unable to maintain your composure. I'd like to start with a few introductory words. Let me say this, this is not in my script. This has been one of the more exhausting, hardest things I've had. And so, as the lawyers know, unlike when a judge presides over a jury waived trial in a civil case, there is no requirement that a judge explain their reasons for reaching a verdict after a criminal bench trial. I do so in this case because I think that Ms. Fitzsimmons, Officer Noonan, and all the people involved in the tragic events of June 30, 2025 deserve an explanation. Next, I'd like to take the opportunity to publicly thank and commend the attorneys in this case. They all did an exceptional job presenting the evidence and conducting themselves in an extremely professional and civil manner. And they did so under the public spotlight in an emotionally charged case. I commend you. To the extent that any of the prosecutors and attorneys may be vilified or subjected to public scorn for simply doing their jobs, in this case, I say that any such scorn is unfair, unwarranted, and simply wrong. These prosecutors and attorneys fought hard but performed their solemn jobs fairly with the utmost civility, and professionalism. They serve as a shining example of our adversarial system in operation. Now, I'd like to publicly acknowledge the crucial and often thankless role that police officers perform, a role that Ms. Fitzsimmons herself, like Officer Noonan, willingly and selflessly performed for the citizens of North Andover. For this, you should be thanked, not disparaged. For those that think that serving as a police officer is easy, or that officers don't care or take pride in their work, I say with more than 3 decades of experience in the criminal justice system that you are naive, misinformed, and sadly mistaken. The work of police officers is especially fraught with peril. Today,
I don't like
because
that
of
speech.
Our seemingly cynical, polarized atmosphere, where our citizenry often believes that there is a conspiracy under or around every corner. I saw no evidence of a conspiracy in this case. What I saw was dedicated public servants like Officer Noonan and his fellow officers doing the best they could under tragic, rapidly evolving promotional circumstances. What I also saw was a young woman, Ms. Fitzimmons, who was also a dedicated public servant, react to sudden, confusing, and heartbreaking news. Now let me turn to the evidence and the law. Our system of justice requires me to decide this case solely on the law and the evidence. So the only things I have considered in reaching my verdict are the 98 exhibits submitted during the trial and the testimony of the 11 witnesses that testified here in open court. While it may be cold and uncaring, our system of justice demands that emotion, sympathy, and concern for the consequences of my decision play no role in my decision. As for the law, in order to prove Ms. Fitzsimmons guilty of the crime of assault by means of a dangerous weapon, the Commonwealth must prove the following 3 things. We lawyers call these things elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that Ms. Simmons committed an assault on Officer Noonan. Second, that Ms. Simmons intended to commit the assault. And third, that the assault was committed by means of a dangerous weapon. The sole issue before me is whether the Commonwealth proves each of these 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. And more specifically, under the circumstances of this case, the narrow issue before me is whether the Commonwealth proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Ms. Fitzsimmons pointed a firearm at Officer Noonan for any perceptible amount of time. What is not before me are the legality of the issuance of the restraining order to Mr. Alain, the reasonableness of the procedure used by the police to serve the restraining order, the legality of Officer Noonan's use of force, and issues regarding the custody of Katie. It is not my place to decide these issues or even mention my thoughts on them. I am thankful for this because my role has been hard enough. What has made my job especially difficult in this case is that by and large, I found the testimony of Officer Noonan and Ms. Fitzsimmons to be credible on the material and relevant points. In my experience, this is unusual and somewhat perplexing. On the one hand, Ms. Fitzsimmons credibly testified that she never pointed a firearm at Officer Noonan. On the other hand, Officer Newman testified that not only did Miss Fitzsimmons point the gun at him, that she also pulled the trigger. Both agree that it happened in seconds near a narrow doorway, and the crime scene photos showed that the door frame was made narrower by a clothes rack containing police uniforms that was to Officer Newman's left. The door frame was also made, the door frame was made still narrower when Officer Newman used it to take cover when he drew his firearm. During the closing argument, the Commonwealth argued that it is scientifically and physically impossible for Ms. Fitzsimmons' story to be true because there was a bullet in the chamber, and she said that Officer Newman shot her without her ever racking the slide after pulling the trigger. I disagree that the evidence reflected that the only way to chamber a round would have been to pull the slide under those circumstances. However, even if I assume that Ms. Fitzsimmons lied about not racking the slide, it does not detract from the adamancy and credibility of her testimony that she never pointed the gun at Officer Newman, about which he was equally as adamant that she did. Perhaps the Commonwealth could have easily met its burden if the officers had been wearing body cameras. But under these circumstances, I am left with a reasonable doubt, and I am duty-bound to find that the Commonwealth has not met its burden to prove that Ms. Fitzsimmons committed an assault by means of a dangerous weapon on Officer Newman, and my verdict is, and must be, not guilty. With that, I will hand the signed verdict slip. I will hand the signed verdict slip to Mr. Wayne and ask that he advise Ms. Fitzsimmons of her statutory rights.
Ms. Fitzsimmons, could you please stand? On docket 2025, 77 CR 311, count 001. The court having returned a verdict of not guilty, the court orders it to be discharged of this indictment and this indictment only, and go thereof without delay. Kelsey Fitzsimmons, as required by statute, I must inform you that the records regarding the charges for which you have been found not guilty will be sealed by the Commissioner of Probation and by the court unless you notify the Commissioner of Probation in writing within 10 days that you do not want those records sealed. To request that those records not be sealed, you may use the request not to seal form posted on the trial court's webpage on mass.gov, or a copy of which I will hand to your counsel. I cannot accept the form here in court. You must submit it to the Commissioner of Probation at the address provided on the form. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Court is in recess. Good, all right.
Please exit quietly, and thank you once again. Thank all. There are other sessions still going. Please be quiet on your way out.
Not
Folks, if you don't mind, start walking over.
I'm having the microphone a bit away from me because of this discrepancy between the court audio and my audio. I'm at 10% microphone. The court is at 600% boost. I can't do more.
Love you, Kelsey.
Folks, make your way out.
Can I turn up now? Oh. All right, I've risen my mic volume a bit. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Oh. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Damn, I was worried there for a bit.
Say that again, Judge.
But then when the judge started to explain, okay, he's getting there.
Code 1 is also still. Everybody.
What's worrying is that he found Noonan credible.
Some of you guys want to start going down so that we can get people moving.
He found Noonan credible. That's worrisome. Because in my opinion, Noonan's story does not reflect the situation that he claimed. He claimed she was 3 feet away, just out of reach. Yeah, the gun was 1 foot away from him. That puts her 4 feet away. That's almost halfway across the room, while he somehow was in the doorframe, watching her dive for the gun, according to him, got out of sight from him. I don't believe that was credible. I found the judge's commentary about police officers, folks. A clear majority of police officers wants to do a good job. There is apparently in Massachusetts, there are a lot of cops who should never have been cops at all. That there's no doubt about it. None whatsoever. So when the judge said the things that he did, I believe that if this was the situation and Kelsey Fitzsimmons wasn't a police officer herself, he would not have found that credible on that fact alone. That is worrisome. According to, I mean, yes, you can weigh people's opinion any way, shape, or form. But in my opinion, you can't outweigh a cop's testimony just because they are cops, like I believe the judge did. Now, in this case, it worked into Kelsey's favor because she was a police officer too. Oh, okay. Court TV is tuning down. I'm hoping that we can get some kind of press conference. I'm quite certain Aiden, because Aiden Kearney is there. Now, what do I believe will happen to Officer Noonan now? I believe Officer Noonan was kept on the force for credibility alone. I believe that him AWOLing, self-medicating, yes, Karate Cat Mom, not guilty. Yeah, they will probably do to him as one of the cops in the Afro Man trial. Either you quit you retire or you're fired. That is what I believe. Because since this incident, Officer Noonan has been a cop on payroll, kept on payroll for this case to conclude. Now, because according to testimony and evidence pre-trial, he has been in this situation twice before. 2 times as SWAT, where a baby was murdered. Well, similar. It's not a similar situation, but to him it is a similar situation. And so he failed at least twice that we know of to save a child's life. So when he entered this house and perceived by himself was in the same situation, he shot her. And he has not worked as a cop since. And I don't think he should. Because whatever is going through him, whatever is in his mind, is not healthy. It is not healthy. But folks, yeah, I'm trying to find oh really? Reports from this is before the verdict was read. Court officer announced that cops will get seating priority over Kelsey supporters in the courtroom. And that is this judge's court officer. Don't like that at all. But I'm looking for a press conference. So that, but while I'm waiting for that, let's talk about what's going to happen next for Kelsey. Kelsey will try to get her child back. She's acquitted, meaning this is all gone. What she does have against her is her former fiance, her former friends, and former officers. Who her former fiance, who I explained yesterday, has been white knighting her. Her former friends, who he turned against her. And now officers who wants to retaliate. Her getting her kid back is going to be an uphill battle because they will argue she hasn't had contact with the child. You have to protect the child, yada, yada, yada. They will make shit up. She has no friends in the police department. At least none that will officially, publicly speak up for her. Sadly. And according to statements from Turtle Boy and others, they have had anonymous sources from within the precinct that has helped them. But they are scared of retaliation themselves. Do I believe she still has a good case? Yeah, but she is against a group of liars who has bonded together, who will not stop lying. Justin is a pothead. I assume, sadly, that so are her friends. if they choose him over her. I would suspect that this custody battle will be ongoing for a significant amount of time, suddenly. She might get visitation and everything. Can she sue the police department? Yes. Everybody can sue everybody, but can she sue a civil rights complaint against the department? Yes. I assume she will. I'm surprised if she hasn't done it already. Strinton says, I think they will quietly give her kid back to get her to be quiet. I understand, but I don't think so. Just look at Canton and the cops there. They are just placing that one over there, one over there, one over there, and two over there, and some in retirement, and some quitting, and some moving away. But they will never, ever admit wrongdoing. And the same applies here, I believe. They have protected Noonan since this happened. The department, the union. Let's see here. Let's see here. Filter, let's see, live. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, justice served. Aiden is on justice served at the moment. I can't find a press conference, sadly. Folks, here's what I'm going to do. It is 7:30 p.m. here. I have a lot of paperwork to do. So if they have a press conference, I will get back to it once I'm done with paperwork. Because, as I said in the beginning of this stream, my entire day today was annual meeting with, everything so I have a lot of paperwork to go through. So folks, let's cheer for what happened today. A not guilty verdict, as it should have been. And let's support Kelsey for the fight she has ahead of her, getting her child back from Justin Amelier, who I believe shows significant that he is what I call a white knight. He is a person who demands control. He is a person who did not have control. He's a person who wanted to isolate Kelsey, turn her friends against her. His family already against her. Now we know he turned her friends against her. I would be surprised if he hasn't tried to turn her family against her. He used the police officers for this fraud of a restraining order. So he turned her colleagues. This is classic isolation tactics, white knighting her. I believe he was supposed to serve it, get the child, get everything, and then show up as a white knight and save her. Because he knew if she lost everything, or in his mind he knew, if she loses everything, I get control. Then I can smoke weed 24/7. I can pretend to be a firefighter. I can be the hero of the town who saved her. Because she will have nothing left. She was the strong person in that relationship. She handled child, good for nothing, soon to be husband, being a cop. She was returning to being a cop after postpartum depression. She had a child 5 weeks early. Niku baby. That takes its toll. She was heading back to be that strong woman again. And Justin could not handle it. Justin could not handle it. That is what I am very, very sure of. Very, very sure of. Let's check for one last time here to see. If there is some kind of press conference going on. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, hold on. No, that's an old video. Sorry. Let's see if phone. Oh. No, sorry, can't find press conference. But I will get back to the press conference because I assume they will have one. I do. Folks, that concludes this trial. Now, what is going on this channel going forward? Well, the Delphi trial, the appeal. The state has made the reply for Rick Allen's appeal brief. That is what I'm going to go through tomorrow. And then we have Courtney Clenley trial starting up. I think it actually starts with jury selection tomorrow, with possible start Monday. And on Monday, I'm back at correct time again. Because you guys, you have your time shifting was 2 weeks ago. Mine is Saturday. So you're only 5 hours ahead of me Eastern time, which means your 9 a.m. Trial starts is 2 p.m. my time, which is insane. Over Rumble, Airs Mommy, is it another Massachusetts case? No, the Courtney Clenley case is Florida. The Delphi case is Indiana. But tomorrow, the Delphi case, I'll be reading through the state's motion to oppose appeal. And I've seen bits and pieces of it already. It's going to be infuriating. I promise you that. It's going to be infuriating. And then the Courtney Clenny case. The OnlyFans girl who accidentally threw a knife at her boyfriend in a Florida luxury apartment in self-defense, according to herself. That will be a shit show, because not only it should be a clean trial, but we also have seen throughout the pre-trial things that the prosecution cannot stop playing dirty. So that will be interesting. That will be interesting. We might also have some Laura Owens updates, because that trial starts soon as well. That trial starts soon as well. So there's a lot going on this channel. I will return soon. At least tomorrow, possibly later today, with the Kelsey Fitzsimmons press conference. Thank you, folks, for sharing this trial with me. I hope I made it more understandable, more clear, and a little bit entertaining. Thank you. You all have a good one, and I will see you all in the next stream or video. Bye-bye.